The arrival. The great silver ship slowed as it came out of the dark sky. Its long body cast a shadow over the glowing forest below. The humans on board pressed their faces against the glass windows, staring at the alien world that spread out like a dream beneath them. Trees shimmered with light, their leaves glowing in green and gold. Strange flowers opened and closed as if breathing. The air itself seemed alive, filled with floating sparks that danced above the ground. For months the crew had trained for this moment. They had studied the language, the signs, and the possible dangers. Yet no book or lesson could prepare them for the sight before their eyes. It was the first time humans had landed on this world, the home of the mysterious blue-skinned people who had sent messages across the stars. The mission was simple: make peace, show respect, and learn from the aliens. But in the hearts of every man and woman on that ship, there was a quiet fear. The ship touched down gently on a wide field near the edge of the forest. The ground glowed faintly under the landing gear, as though the earth itself welcomed the visitors. The commander of the mission, a tall man named Harris, stood at the front of the group. His voice was calm but strong as he gave orders. The soldiers checked their weapons, the diplomats fixed their uniforms, and the scientists clutched their devices, ready to record everything. The doors of the ship opened with a slow hiss. Warm air rushed in, carrying the scent of flowers, earth, and something sharp that none of them could name. The humans stepped out one by one, their boots sinking slightly into the soft, glowing grass. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of their breathing. All eyes searched the horizon. Somewhere beyond the trees, they knew, the alien hosts were waiting. The narrator's voice would linger here, describing the moment with slow tension. The humans walked forward as a group, each step measured and careful. Above them, the sky shifted in colors, changing from pale blue to streaks of gold as if the world itself was alive and watching. Then they saw movement. Figures emerged from the trees, tall and graceful. Their skin was a shade of blue that shimmered under the light. They had long hair that flowed like water, decorated with jewels and golden bands. Their eyes glowed faintly, not in a frightening way, but with a strange beauty that made the humans stop in their tracks. The aliens moved in perfect formation, walking side by side as though part of a grand ceremony. At their center was one figure different from the rest. She wore a crown of silver leaves and her gown shimmered like liquid gold. Her steps were slow, deliberate, each one filled with power and grace. The humans did not speak. Even Commander Harris felt his throat tighten. This was the moment of first contact, the moment that would be remembered in history. Every detail mattered, every breath, every look. A single mistake could mean peace lost or war born. The aliens stopped a few feet away, their eyes fixed on the humans. For a long time, there was no sound. The forest around them was alive with glowing insects and drifting sparks, but no voice broke the silence. It was as if both sides were waiting for the other to act first. One of the human diplomats, a woman named Carter, slowly stepped forward. She bowed her head slightly, following the custom they had practiced. Her heart pounded as she lifted her eyes to meet the alien leader. For a moment, she thought she saw a smile on the woman's face, soft and knowing. But then the aliens did something unexpected. They raised their hands together in one motion, their fingers spread wide, palms glowing with faint light. The humans froze, unsure whether it was a greeting or a warning. Carter glanced back at Commander Harris, but he gave no signal. He was just as lost as the rest. The narrator describes the air tightening, the silence stretching. The humans could feel their nerves rising, the question pounding in their minds. What did this gesture mean? Was it a welcome or a threat? Then the alien leader took one step closer. Her eyes glowed brighter, her voice soft but carrying through the field. The sound was like music, strange yet calming. None of the humans understood the words, but they felt the weight of them, the meaning that lay beyond language. The scientists quickly activated the translator devices, struggling to decode the sounds. Numbers flashed on their screens, words forming too slowly to catch up. Still, the humans stood frozen, waiting. Finally, the translator gave its first clear line. "We greet you with truth." The words made little sense, but they were enough to break the silence. Harris nodded stiffly, stepping forward. "We come in peace," he said, his voice firm but respectful. The alien leader tilted her head as if studying him. The other aliens stood perfectly still, their glowing eyes fixed on the humans. The first meeting had begun, and already it was filled with mystery and tension. The humans had expected handshakes, bows, or gifts. But here, in this glowing field on a strange world, they realized the truth. Nothing about this meeting would be what they imagined. Every step forward would be filled with surprise, and perhaps with danger. The narrator would leave the audience here, with the image of humans standing face to face with the blue-skinned aliens, silence heavy between them, and the future of two worlds resting on what happened next. The first greeting. The silence stretched across the glowing field. Humans and aliens faced each other like statues, their eyes locked in a quiet battle of patience. The air seemed heavier, as though even the wind dared not move. A soft hum echoed from somewhere deep within the alien forest, and the humans wondered if it was natural or something alive, watching them unseen. The leader of the blue-skinned women stepped forward. The humans could see her more clearly now. Her gown shimmered in waves of green and gold, and tiny lights glimmered across the fabric as if stars had been sewn into it. Her crown of silver leaves shone faintly in the shifting light. She was beautiful, but there was something beyond beauty in her presence, something commanding, something that made even hardened soldiers lower their eyes. She raised her hands again, slow and deliberate. The other alien women followed, moving in perfect unison. The humans watched with growing unease. No book of alien languages, no cultural guide, no diplomatic training had prepared them for what came next. In a single motion, the alien women began their ritual. They moved their hands to the edges of their gowns and armor. The humans blinked in disbelief. The soldiers stiffened, one even tightening his grip on his weapon, though he did not lift it. Commander Harris raised his hand quickly, signaling everyone to remain calm. The alien women pulled at their gowns, revealing parts of themselves in a way that startled the humans. It was not clumsy or shameful. It was done with grace, with poise, as if it were a dance taught for generations. The women stood tall, proud, their eyes shining not with embarrassment but with dignity. The humans exchanged looks of shock. Some turned their heads slightly, not sure if they should watch or look away. The younger soldiers whispered under their breath, their voices trembling with nervous laughter that died quickly under Harris's stern glare. The alien leader's voice rose again, flowing like water, rich and calm. The translator struggled to keep up, its screen flashing broken phrases. Open, truth. Nothing hidden. Then finally, one line came clear. We show what we hide not. We welcome you with no lies. A heavy silence followed. The humans stood frozen. It was clear now that the alien women were not mocking them, nor trying to insult them. This was a ritual, a custom older than memory, performed with honor. Carter, the diplomat, felt her chest tighten. She realized what it meant. In human culture, greetings were about politeness, a handshake, a bow, a simple word. But here on this world, greetings were not about manners, they were about trust. By revealing themselves, the aliens were saying, we hide nothing from you. We are open, and we expect the same. Yet to the humans it was shocking, unfamiliar, dangerous. If they accepted it, would they be crossing a line? If they rejected it, would they offend their hosts beyond repair? The soldiers shifted uneasily, hands hovering close to their weapons. The scientists whispered hurriedly into their recorders, speaking of rituals, of symbolic traditions, of possible misunderstandings. Harris said nothing. He only stared at the alien leader, his jaw tight, his mind racing through the possibilities. The alien women held their pose, still and waiting. They were not embarrassed. They were not ashamed. Their faces were calm, even proud. Their eyes never wavered. The humans began to feel the weight of those stares, the expectation behind them. Carter swallowed hard. She knew the choice had to be made. If they hesitated too long, the silence itself could be seen as an insult. She stepped forward once more, her voice steady but low. We thank you for your welcome, she said. The translator carried her words into the alien tongue, though she could not be sure how perfectly it matched. The alien leader tilted her head slightly. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Her eyes glowed brighter, and she spoke again. The translator buzzed before producing words. You accept? You understand? Carter hesitated. She glanced back at Harris. His eyes were hard, his face unreadable, but he gave the smallest nod. She turned back to the aliens and spoke again. We understand that this is your way. We accept your greeting. The alien leader lowered her hands slowly. The others followed. The ritual ended as gracefully as it had begun. The women stood tall once more, their gowns flowing back into place. The moment of tension faded, replaced by a quiet stillness that carried a different weight. The humans exhaled as one. Some had not even realized they were holding their breath. A soldier muttered under his breath, "What just happened?" Another hushed him quickly. The alien leader stepped closer now, close enough that Carter could see the fine lines of her skin, the shimmer of faint markings across her arms and neck. They were not random. They looked like symbols, patterns etched into the flesh itself, glowing faintly in the light. She raised her hand, palm open. Carter hesitated only a second before lifting her own hand to meet it. The two palms did not touch. There was a space left between them, but both held their hands steady, facing one another. The translator buzzed again. "Truth meets truth. Now we speak." It was the end of the greeting. The ritual had been shocking, but it was clear now that it was sacred. The humans had survived the first step. They had not broken the bond before it could begin, but as the aliens lowered their hands and began to gesture toward the forest, inviting the humans deeper into their world, Carter could not shake the feeling that the real test had only just begun. The narrator leaves the audience here, lingering on the image of two hands facing each other in the air, not touching but holding the weight of peace and mistrust in equal measure. One ritual had been accepted, but many more mysteries awaited. Human shock and alien pride. The humans followed the aliens into the forest, their boots crunching softly against the glowing grass. The air was thick with a perfume of strange flowers, and faint motes of light drifted through the air like fireflies. Yet the beauty of the place did little to ease the unease that lingered among them. Behind the helmets of the soldiers, whispers passed like sparks. They spoke quietly, careful not to let their voices carry. "What was that back there?" one asked, his voice sharp. "A trick. Or a test," another answered. "It was something else," a third muttered. "Did you see their faces?" They were proud of it, not ashamed. Commander Harris heard their voices, but he did not stop them. He knew their thoughts were only the beginning of what every human in that group was feeling. Even Carter, who had stood at the front and accepted the ritual, felt her pulse quicken when she thought of it. The images replayed in her mind. The alien women, their calm eyes, their fearless gestures. They had revealed themselves with such dignity, with no hesitation, as if it was the most natural act in the universe. For humans, it was shocking. For them, it was sacred. The narrator's voice would linger here, describing the deep divide between human reaction and alien pride. The aliens walked ahead, their tall frames moving with quiet grace. They did not seem embarrassed, nor did they seem to notice the humans' awkward steps. Their leader, crowned in silver leaves, glanced back only once. Her glowing eyes met Harris's and then Carter's. In that single look, they saw no regret. Instead, they saw pride. Pride in tradition, pride in their people, pride in showing themselves without fear. The humans could not understand it, yet they felt the weight of it. The soldiers looked down at their boots. The scientists whispered hurried notes into their recorders, and Harris kept his jaw tight, hiding his own unease. Soon they reached a clearing. In the center stood tall stone pillars, carved with symbols that seemed to shimmer faintly in the dim light. Around the pillars, glowing plants grew in circles, releasing a soft mist into the air. The aliens stopped, forming a half circle around their leader. The humans mirrored them, forming their own line across the clearing. The alien leader stepped forward, raising her arms slowly. Her voice rang out, soft yet powerful, carrying through the air. The translator buzzed and cracked, then slowly gave words. "We are open. We hold no shadows. This is the way of our people. To greet is to trust. To reveal is to bind." Her words hung in the air. Carter felt her throat tighten. She knew what they meant now. The ritual had not been a display of weakness nor of insult. It had been a declaration. The aliens had shown their truth and demanded truth in return. The humans exchanged uneasy glances. A young soldier muttered, "They expect us to do the same." Harris's eyes narrowed. He said nothing, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed his thoughts. Could humanity accept such a custom? Could they strip away their own barriers so easily in the face of beings they barely knew? The alien leader spoke again, and this time she gestured toward the humans. The translator flickered. "We welcome you with no lies. Will you stand in truth with us?" The silence was crushing. The soldiers shifted, their armor creaking softly. The scientists avoided each other's eyes. Even Carter hesitated, her mouth opening and closing without sound. The aliens stood tall, calm, their glowing eyes fixed on the humans. They were proud, unbending. To them, this was not strange. This was not shameful. This was the heart of their honor, the way they had lived for generations. Finally, Harris stepped forward. His face was unreadable, his voice hard. "We do not understand your ways," he said, his words slow, careful. "But we respect them. We respect the strength it takes to show what you hide not." The translator carried his voice, and the alien leader tilted her head. Then she smiled, faint but real. She turned to her people, and they lowered their arms in unison. The ritual was complete. The choice had been made. The humans had not performed the same act, but they had acknowledged it. The aliens, in turn, accepted that acknowledgement. For now it was enough. The clearing fell quiet again. The soldiers exhaled softly, relief breaking through their nerves. But the unease remained. They had survived the moment, but the meaning of it lingered like a shadow. Carter stepped closer to Harris, her voice low. "Do you think we offended them?" "No," Harris said, though his jaw tightened. "But this is only the beginning." The alien leader raised her hands once more, this time in a gesture of welcome rather than ritual. She pointed toward a path leading deeper into the glowing forest. The translator spoke, "Come share with us. See truth as we see it." The humans hesitated only a moment before following. Their steps were heavy, their thoughts heavier still. The forest swallowed them in light and shadow, and the air seemed to hum with secrets waiting to be revealed. The narrator would end this part with the image of two groups walking side by side, one filled with unease and hidden doubt, the other filled with calm pride in a tradition older than stars. The humans had seen a glimpse of the alien heart, and it had shaken them. What came next would test not only their understanding, but their courage. The conflict of cultures, the path wound deeper into the alien forest. The trees rose like towers, their trunks smooth and glowing faintly with blue veins that pulsed as though carrying blood. Strange creatures darted in the branches above, their eyes glowing like tiny lamps. The humans walked close together, their weapons silent at their sides, but their nerves were sharp. Every step was heavy with thought. The ritual in the clearing had left a mark on them. Some soldiers looked angry, others embarrassed, others simply confused. They whispered among themselves when they thought no one was listening. "They expect us to follow their ways," one said bitterly. "They want us to strip ourselves bare for them," another muttered. "It's not shame for them," a third voice replied. "You saw their faces. They were proud of it. We can't judge them by our rules." Commander Harris heard it all, though he did not turn. His jaw was locked, his eyes fixed forward. He knew his soldiers were unsettled. He was unsettled too. But he also knew that one wrong word, one wrong act could turn this meeting into disaster. Carter walked beside him. Her face was pale, her eyes thoughtful. She spoke softly so only he could hear. "We are at the edge of something important," she said. "If we reject them, we lose their trust. If we follow, we risk losing ourselves." Harris gave no answer. His silence was heavier than words. The aliens led the way without hesitation. Their tall figures moved gracefully, their gowns and armor flowing like water. They looked neither angry nor suspicious. Instead, their faces carried the same calm dignity they had shown in the clearing. To them, the ritual had been a sacred gift. To them, the humans' hesitation was the only strange thing. At last, they reached another open space. This one was wider, filled with tall stone structures shaped like arches. Each arch glowed with soft light, carved with symbols that pulsed in rhythm as if alive. Beneath the arches, alien women stood waiting more than before. Their eyes glowed in the dim air, their faces unreadable. The leader of the first group raised her hand and the crowd fell silent. She stepped forward, her crown shining, her voice rising like music. The translator buzzed and spat out the meaning. "Guests of the stars, you have walked our path. Now we ask, will you honor us with truth as we honor you?" The words struck the humans like a blow. They had expected another ritual, perhaps another speech. But this was direct. The aliens were asking for something clear, something dangerous. Harris stiffened. His soldiers shifted uneasily. Carter's heart raced as she realized the meaning. The aliens were asking them to perform the same ritual, to reveal themselves in return. The soldiers muttered sharply, "No way. This is madness. They're testing us." Harris raised his hand to silence them, but the damage was already done. The aliens heard the tone, if not the words. Their glowing eyes shifted, sharp and cold, though their faces remained calm. Carter stepped forward quickly. "We respect your ways," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "We respect your courage. But our people are different. We do not greet as you do. Our ways are not the same." The translator carried her words, and the leader tilted her head. Her eyes narrowed. For the first time, the calm dignity cracked. She spoke again, and the translator translated with sharpness. "Different? Or afraid?" The words cut through the clearing. The humans froze. Fear and anger flashed across their faces. The soldiers gripped their weapons tightly. Harris's jaw tightened until it seemed his teeth would break. "We are not afraid," he said, his voice low but fierce. "We are not liars either, but we have our ways and you have yours." The alien leader studied him for a long moment. The silence pressed down like a weight. Behind her, the other alien women stood motionless, their glowing eyes like 100 watching flames. Finally, she spoke again, her voice softer. The translator buzzed. "Then show us in another way. Show us you hide nothing. Show us you come in truth." Her demand was less strict, but the tension remained. The humans stood in silence, their thoughts pulling in different directions. Some wanted to follow to prove themselves worthy. Others felt insulted, as if forced to give up their dignity. Carter's voice broke the silence. "Perhaps we can share something else," she said quickly. "Not our bodies, but our hearts. Our words. A story, a memory, a truth we cannot fake. Would that be enough?" The alien leader did not reply immediately. She studied Carter with long, unblinking eyes. The silence stretched until even the glowing forest seemed to hold its breath. Then at last she nodded. "Truth is not only flesh," the translator said. "Truth is also the heart. Show us this and we will know." Relief washed through the humans, but it was not complete. The soldiers lowered their weapons, but unease still lingered. Carter felt her pulse race. They had escaped the demand, but not the expectation. Now they would have to prove themselves in another way. The alien leader raised her hand, signaling the end of the moment. She gestured toward the stone arches, where glowing fires burned within carved bowls. She spoke again. "Each of you will speak. Each will give truth. Then we will know your hearts." The humans looked at one another in shock. The soldiers paled. The scientists muttered nervously. Harris's face hardened. The conflict of cultures had reached its peak. One side demanded truth. The other struggled to decide how much of themselves they could give. The narrator's voice would end here, heavy and suspenseful, leaving the image of humans standing beneath glowing arches, surrounded by eyes that burned with alien light, knowing that every word they spoke could decide peace or ruin. Understanding and connection, the clearing was silent, filled only with the faint hum of the glowing arches. The alien women stood like statues, their tall forms bathed in pale light, their glowing eyes fixed on the humans. The humans stood opposite them, stiff and uneasy. Soldiers clutched their rifles, diplomats wrung their hands, and the scientists whispered nervously into their recorders. The demand was simple, yet it cut deep. The aliens wanted truth, not in gestures of the body this time, but in words, in spirit. Each human had to reveal something they could not fake, something that came from within. It was a challenge more dangerous than any weapon. Commander Harris looked across his people. He saw fear, he saw anger, he saw doubt. For a moment he considered refusing. He could turn his back, return to the ship, and leave this world behind. But he knew what that would mean. An insult to these people. The end of peace before it had even begun. Humanity would be marked as liars and cowards in the eyes of the galaxy. He stepped forward. His boots pressed into the soft, glowing grass. His voice was low but steady. "If truth is what you want," he said, "then I will give you mine." The translator carried his words into the air, and the alien leader nodded. The circle of women leaned forward slightly, their eyes bright with anticipation. Harris drew a long breath. His jaw tightened, his eyes hardened. "I fear failure," he said simply. The words hung in the silence. "I fear leading my people into danger. I fear losing them one by one because of my choices. I wear command-like armor, but inside I am afraid every day." The soldiers behind him froze. They had never heard him speak this way. The aliens studied him quietly, their faces unreadable. Then as the translator finished the line, the alien leader's eyes softened. She inclined her head and a faint smile passed across her lips. It was Carter's turn next. She stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly. She stared into the glowing eyes before her, and her voice cracked as she spoke. I have lived my life studying words, treaties, rules. But the truth is, I have always felt small. I wanted to be brave, but I have spent my life afraid of being forgotten, afraid that all my work, all my effort would vanish with no one to remember. Her words echoed through the clearing. The translator gave them form in the alien tongue, and the women nodded slowly, their eyes shimmering. One by one, the others followed. A young soldier admitted his shame at joining not for duty, but for escape. A scientist confessed her jealousy of those braver than herself. Another soldier spoke of his grief, of leaving behind a brother who would never return from war. Each truth fell into the air, heavy but honest. Each word seemed to change the silence, shaping it into something softer, something alive. The aliens listened without interrupting. Their faces remained calm, but their eyes glowed brighter, as if each truth was a flame feeding a fire within them. At last, when every human had spoken, the leader stepped forward once more. She lifted her arm slowly, her crown shimmering under the alien sky. Her voice rose like music carrying through the clearing. The translator buzzed and spoke. You have shown yourselves. You have given what is hidden. You have walked in truth. Now we know. The alien women lowered their heads in unison, a gesture of respect. The tension that had gripped the clearing melted like ice under fire. For the first time, the humans felt no judgment in the glowing eyes before them. Instead, they felt acceptance. Carter felt tears prick her eyes. Harris lowered his head, the weight in his chest lifting slightly. Even the soldiers who had stood stiff and doubtful felt a strange relief. They had given away pieces of themselves, but in return they had gained something greater. The alien leader stepped closer. She extended her hand, palm open, just as she had in the field during their first meeting. This time Harris lifted his hand without hesitation. Their palms hovered close, not touching but facing one another. The translator spoke the final line of the ritual. Truth meets truth. Now we are bound. The humans felt the meaning of those words. This was not just peace. This was trust born from something deeper than politics or treaties. This was a bond carved out of vulnerability, out of honesty. The aliens lowered their arms, and for the first time, smiles spread across their faces. Not faint, not restrained, but open and clear. The humans felt warmth ripple through the clearing. The air seemed lighter, the glowing trees brighter. The forest no longer felt strange and dangerous. It felt alive, welcoming. The narrator would let the moment linger. The humans, who had arrived filled with fear and suspicion, now stood taller, their shoulders lighter. They had not given away their dignity. They had not surrendered their humanity. Instead, they had discovered a new strength in truth. As the aliens guided them deeper into the forest, the humans realized this was only the beginning. There would be more rituals, more customs, more tests, but they also knew now that they could face them, not by hiding, not by pretending, but by being honest, even when it hurt. The story closes with the image of humans and aliens walking side by side beneath glowing arches, two peoples bound not by fear, not by power, but by something stronger, trust in truth.